Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rising Stars. I'm your host, Sean Watt. This show is dedicated to highlighting the talent pool here in Montreal. Without further ado, I'm very proud to announce our next guest, Lawrence. How you doing, man?
Doing good, brother. Thanks for having
good.
me. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
A pleasure.
So, acting, how did that become? A thing? Was it a dream?
It was always something I really had an interest in. It was always something that I loved growing up. Stories in any kind of medium, really. I was always a big comic book guy, video games, TV, movies, just everything, really. I always had such a big interest in that. Just the art of storytelling was always so cool. I used to have like a very cushy corporate job, and around my son's first birthday, the company that I worked for, one of the biggest telecom companies in Canada, got acquired by another telecom company, and they laid off like our entire staff. So I was kind of figuring out what to do, and I didn't really have any ideas and things like that. And my wife kind of brought up, she goes, go do the things you wanted to do that you didn't have time to do before. Yeah. So from there, it's where I kind of jumped into acting. I had mutual friends who had already taken class, had already had taken first steps into the acting milieu. And, I spoke to a lot of them. I got some advice, and then I just kind of dove in to test my hand, as it were.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think when you first just dove in?
I think it's intimidating, right? Anytime you're learning a new skill, it's not easy. And I think, being in my mid-30s and just realizing kind of like with the wisdom of age, like you have to accept like you're not going to be immediately good at something right away. Like when you start, you have to just accept like, hey, I'm going to be bad and I need to learn and I need to kind of embrace this messy, slow progress. So I think it's about just kind of, for me at least, being patient for myself when I was starting out and, trying to get my bearings more than anything else.
I mean, keep in mind though, Morgan Freeman, he started when he was mid-50s.
Right.
So there's no really age sort of, preparation for it. Yeah. It's just whenever you want to do it, you just pursue it and you just have fun with it, man.
Absolutely.
There was a guy, do you remember the X-Men Apocalypse movie?
Sure.
So at the beginning, there's like that weird guy with like in the chair or whatever.
Okay.
He's actually a guy that I met through an acting class here, and that was his first role ever.
That's cool.
And he started at like almost at the age of 80.
That's amazing.
And he got cast for that part, So age is just a number.
Sure.
It's a matter of just being at the right place at the right time, working hard, and just having the look for the role.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not going to play a high school,
Maybe if I shave, I might be able to age down a bit. But
some makeup to cover up the 5 o'clock shadow, whatever else. Maybe you could.
It's an all-day shadow, unfortunately, but it basically happens. I think, and again, it's to your point. Like it's not mostly about. As long as you start and you do something, right? Like it's not about like I'm too old for this or I'm too young for that or whatever the case is. I think you just got to jump in and start like what you mentioned, like the sense of play and having fun with it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because even if it's not like, Morgan Freeman is one of the most, storied and celebrated actors. As long as you're able to just kind of learn, build, have a great sense of community, meet some great people, like, enjoy it, enjoy the process, enjoy the messy parts of your learning and your experience.
Networking and stuff like that too, right?
Absolutely. I think all of it is worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where it's people put a lot of pressure on themselves when it comes to doing anything in life.
Yeah.
But when it comes to acting, it's either for you or it's not, and you'll find out real quick, right? Yeah. And a part of it, when you find out if it's for you, it's if you still have that inner child within you. Yeah. If you're playful, if playing make-believe, your imagination's running wild, then it's like, dang, okay, acting probably is a pretty good, hobby for me to start with, and then just kind of take it as it comes. And
I mean, the sense of play is super important for sure. Yeah. And I think make believe in the inner child and all that kind of stuff that you're mentioning, like it really rings true. You have to really just kind of like throw yourself into it. It's hard to take like a half measure and be like successful at it. Like if you want to nail a scene, you want to nail a character, you want to get to like the heart and the essence of a character, you can't really go in there and be like, I'm going to play it cool or whatever. Like if that's not what it's called for, you really have to throw yourself into it and just kind of
completely be vulnerable. Yeah. There's that actor, William Dafoe, the guy who plays Green Goblin. Yes. And he actually strives to suck in the scenes because then he's not living up to the expectations of failing when he's trying to be a perfectionist.
Well, in that
So it's
in that
point of
respect,
perspective.
I'm nailing a very Willem Dafoe method. Absolutely, a lot of times.
Because he says it's a point of perspective. There's never
Sure.
a point where he's so uptight that he's, you know what I mean, being kind of rude when he's not nailing the scenes the way that he's trying to be a perfectionist about.
Sure.
But he's also not setting the bar so high as well. So he's finding like a healthy middle ground.
Well, I think there's also something to be
So-
said about trying to avoid like I need to be good, like that weird pressure you put on yourself. Like I need to be good, that's going to preoccupy what you should be doing. I need to do well. I need to nail this. I need to do that. Then you start building a bunch of thoughts, and it starts to, constrain what you're performing and what you're doing. So you just got to be kind of loose. And I think, of course, it's a hard skill to learn. It's very easy to be like, don't think about doing good, just be. And that's really tough. And then you have to live in that.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that's
you have to be in the moment. And I think one of the hardest things is having your mind go on autopilot when you memorize your lines.
Sure.
But once you can learn that, it just becomes so much easier.
I think my experience with acting has been very different from before I've ever acted, like thinking
What was
about...
your impression before?
But that's it. I felt it was
What
like,
was it?
learn your line, do like you make a choice, you do the thing, and you say, thank you for having me. Next scene, thank you for having me. Third time, thank you for having me. But that's not it at all. It's about just inhabiting a character, and then the way that line comes out once you're fully got it.
Intention.
Yeah. So I thought that was really, I had to kind of divorce myself from the thought of what I thought acting was before.
Yeah.
And then just kind of live into this new space. And I was like, and that was the interesting challenge when I started out. I was just like, I'm still starting. I'm still in the process of beginning. So, there's still a lot to uncover and a lot to unfold. But I think that was kind of one of the main things I had to kind of talk to myself about and just be like, don't worry about doing good right away. Don't worry about being like, I got to be the best, and I got to do this, and I got to do that.
Everyone has their own learning curve.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where you can never compare yourself to another actor because you are you. And that's what makes you unique.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, you can admire another actor based on the way that they portray certain characters.
Sure.
But you know what I mean? You would play that character in a whole different way.
Sure.
Right? So you can sort of emulate some things here and there, which will help you craft, you as an artist.
Yeah. And I think with any kind of artistic endeavor, any kind of storytelling, any kind of creativity, there's always a value in kind of studying from the people that you admire and you look up to and saying like, this person connects with me. Like, what have they done to build this connection, or why do I feel this way when I see this? Willem Dafoe has some great performances. You mentioned Morgan Freeman. Why am I crying at the end of Shawshank Redemption? Like, what has he curated that I'm feeling this way?
Yeah.
Why am I so emotional? Right. So I think obviously,
honesty.
And the path isn't going to be the same for me as you or anyone else. But I think how does this connection being forged? Like, what are these people doing?
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting, and that's what I want to kind of dig into and learn
And also
more
that's
about.
part of the movie magic is when they add the music.
Yeah.
It's it's tugging on the heartstrings,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool things like that where, I don't know, have you done background work yet?
No.
Okay. It's a pretty eye-opening experience in terms of just getting real professional on-set experience.
Sure.
I'll recommend doing it. So if you have the opportunity, sign up with the background agencies in Montreal. And it's pretty cool to see sometimes some really big actors do their thing and the way that they're setting up and this and that. And it teaches you the etiquette of being on set.
That's huge, right? You don't want to go up on set and just start,
And sometimes you get upgraded. Sometimes you start off as a background and be like, you know what, you're going to say something and now you're getting a way bigger paycheck.
That's very cool.
Which is really cool because you just never know.
Yeah, and I think also in the acting sphere, I think the amount of collaboration it takes is something that I didn't fully grasp beforehand. You know what I mean? You go on set and you're just like...
Yeah, of course.
And just even the products here at Trevis or whatever the case is, you sit and there's so many people in the room. You have people who are taking care of every aspect, so meticulous, people who are learning and people who are adjusting and people who are taking feedback and then metabolizing the feedback and, setting it up right away.
Yeah.
And it just takes a village, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that was really interesting to see, and just to see how much collaboration, how much details were going into play and how much everyone really needed to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're moving something during a scene and then the person's like, no, we're resetting it, well, now this is a continuity error. Now you have people taking it.
Yep.
The costumes change, you adjusted something, you moved, this is there now. And then every step along the way, and it kind of makes this finished product that's really rewarding when everyone is pulling in the same direction. Which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too where it's like you don't realize how many crew members are on a feature film.
Sure.
For a Hollywood production. It's 40 to 50 different people.
I recently saw an interview where someone was talking about for The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
There was a tent and it was like a huge tent that in a normal production would have been used for like catering or housing everybody or whatever. And they used it just to hand out the walkie-talkies.
Oh my God.
It was like over like 1,100 walkie-talkies, and they just had over 1,100 walkie-talkies, and they just had a guy who it was his only job to like hand out the walkie-talkies and like give out the serial numbers and just kind of keep track of it all day.
What?
So when we talk about like the scope and the scale, it's like very daunting to think about a production that size and just be like, oh my God, like that's incredible. Like just the amount of coordination and teamwork that needs to pull that off is insane.
And everyone has to be on the same page, otherwise you're going to ruin a lot of takes and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that about that. I thought it was like, okay, 40, 50, but 1,100.
1,100, yeah.
I wonder why. I wonder if there was like different sets going on, different parts of the city, because like sometimes you'll hear about them shooting with like an A, B, and a C team.
Right.
So team A is over here filming this scene, team B is over there, team C is like outside of the city shooting with certain actors and stuff. I would assume maybe it was something like that, but wild regardless.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So how long have you been acting for? You said you're relatively new.
Yeah, just about a year.
Just a year, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's the journey so far?
Very interesting, very rewarding, a lot of fun. I think in terms of starting out, it's very cool to kind of learn and get your bearings and just be humble about like being hungry for knowledge. Like I have to learn, I have to experience, I have to, get in front of the camera and work and try and, put the tools in the belt so I can be effective at what I want to do. Yeah. At telling the story at the craft, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just about kind of being a sponge and talking to people, like I talked to a friend of mine, she's a PA. I talked to someone who is directing his own project. I talked to someone who's applying for grants. I'm talking to people who are, working in different aspects. So it's just trying to soak up enough knowledge so that, when I do get an opportunity, I'm able to maximize it.
Of course.
And able to work on it in like an effective way. Yeah. So I think that's the interesting part in my journey. And I think it's very cool. It's very cool. It's very fun. Yeah. It's something that, acting is wild. You get to just like play and make believe, and people are like, "This is great. This is your job now." And you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I can do that." Yeah.
It's weird at the beginning because when you're doing like those non-union projects, a lot of your friends are like, "Wow, that looks so fake," or "That's so cheesy," or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I mean that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
You don't get to do all these lucrative like high-end sets and cool background FX sort of gigs until a little bit.
Sure, but there's something really nice and romantic about just making things work. Just a bunch of people just like, hey, we got $12 in duct tape. Let's figure this out. Like, let's make some like legitimate like movie magic. Like, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
How do we make this work with the things we have?
Yeah.
And I think that, in French, patenter une affaire, like just kind of throw something together in a way that makes it make sense. And I think that there's something really cool about that, because once you get onto a bigger set and once you get into bigger projects, when you have the experience of throwing things together and putting things together on a shoestring budget, it kind of gives you the perspective. You're like, hey, I went from here to there. Or, I started off here and we had to do this and I had to build this prop out of duct tape and make it look like this. And now I'm doing X, Y, Z with all these, costume makers,
everything
props.
that's already there and taken care of and whatever else. Yeah.
I have the 894th walkie-talkie. Like, you know what I mean? It's like different in perspective for sure.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. First of all, when you're doing the smaller stuff, probably don't even have a walkie-talkie.
No. You're just shouting from 4 feet away.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things that people don't realize is setting up the lighting.
Sure.
And like getting proper lighting, like that's one of the most difficult.
I was surprised. That's the thing that, you know what I mean, when I started actually being on sets, that would surprise me, is people were like, okay, we're going to do like a different, you guys stay here, we're just going to do a shot from a different angle. Tear down all the lighting, move everything around, do everything like that. And it's so labor intensive. There's so many people who are just behind the scenes hauling ass. And you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy,
Yeah.
And then the sound and all the people who just really work hard, and
And the sound guys, they hear everything.
Everything, yeah.
If you burp inside your mouth, they hear that. Heartbeats, I mean, farts.
Heartbeats, I didn't know.
Yeah, they hear
farts and burps, that's going to happen when I'm on set, I guarantee it, but yeah. Heartbeat, I didn't know.
Yeah, they hear the heartbeat too.
Oh,
which is crazy, right?
Can you tell I'm nervous during this interview? Do we have a sound guy?
I don't know if these mics can, but I mean the ones on the bigger ends there. I spoke to them. They're like, yeah, we can hear heartbeats and stuff. I'm like, kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine.
Tom Cruise is actually kind of nervous about the shot. Like you could hear someone's heartbeat quick or whatever. Like that's wild.
Yeah. Like calm him down, calm him down. He's on the verge of having a stroke.
Pull him aside. We're gonna talk to him. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Would you ever do your own stunts? Speaking of Tom Cruise.
No, I'm not athletic enough to do my own stunts.
Not even like a fight scene.
Oh, a fight scene I'll do. Sure. Because when you say Tom Cruise, I'm thinking like motorcycle off of cliff into parachute. Like that's where my mind goes. And he's messed himself up quite a few times, right? He's broken an ankle on the last Mission Impossible, I think. Mm-hmm. He's hurt himself quite a bit. Yeah. I don't know if I'm that tough or that athletic. If a fight scene for sure, I'd throw down. Why not? That's fun, right? Yeah. Because I think also when you get into acting, you always envision yourself doing like the craziest, biggest projects, right? You're like, you know, you want to be John Wick. You want to be these huge characters. You want to be Superman. You want to be these big.
John Wick could be crazy.
Yeah, all these kind of crazy characters.
So he does fighting, and weapons and whatever else.
Have you seen the clips of Keanu Reeves like at the shooting range and stuff? Insane.
Oh yeah.
Like that's cool. I would love to do things like that. Like that's really exciting.
Imagine like being paid to go through that training.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Hey, we're gonna go do. You're gonna go learn about butterfly knives. You're just like. Okay, I guess. Yeah, sure.
No, I don't want to do it.
That's cool for a Wednesday, I guess. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. That's really interesting. So I think I would do some stunts as long as it's nothing like too crazy. I don't think I'm jumping out of planes and stuff. I think having a kid puts a lot of things into perspective as to like the things you really want to do.
Yeah, you're a parent now.
I am a parent.
It's so different.
Before the camera was on, we were talking about the price of berries because that's where my life is now. But I think there's things that I definitely would have done 5 years ago that I'm probably like, I don't know, maybe I don't need to jump out of a helicopter. Like, not that I've been offered yet, but if anyone wants to, I'll think about it. But it's very cool and just like the scope of like whatever.
Well, for example, there's like a stunt that Tom Cruise did for Mission Impossible where he had to he held his breath for 6.5 minutes. Imagine the training, and he went in and out of consciousness a lot of times, and he trained with a free diver, one of the world's best free divers, where they can go underwater in the ocean for like 13 minutes and then just dive free. That's
insane. And he trained his body to be able to. Don't we have like aren't there tanks? Can't we just like CGI a tank out of there? Like, there must be easier way.
So much though.
More than almost killing Tom Cruise? Because I feel like the insurance payments are going to be way higher than CGI tank.
Do you remember Henry Cavill and Mission Impossible
with the mustache? Yes.
So when they CGI'd him, it cost like a couple million
to get rid of the mustache. No.
Yeah, which is crazy.
A couple million for the mustache?
Red report.
And if he would have had a full beard, it would have tanked the economy? Like what?
Probably.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Did you see Justice League?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I know.
Yeah. I think what they're doing is they're sort of skimping out on DC stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just really focusing on Marvel and catering to that and trying to oversaturate the market with Marvel and whatever else.
That's such a. I mentioned off the top, I'm a comic book guy. That would be such like a dream role for me. Do you ever have you ever see a role and you're like, I want that one?
Yep.
Which ones?
Carnage.
Carnage? The Woody Harrelson Carnage movie?
He did a terrible job.
Well,
and that's why
it's a bad script too.
I want to do Justice and have like a Carnage origin story.
Okay.
Because I read the comics.
Sure.
And Carnage is drawn to Cletus because they're similar in terms of the way that they see killing as a form of art.
It's a very diplomatic way to say they're both fucking crazy. But yes, right.
And so if I were to do an origin story for Cletus, I would do something completely non-comic related where he's fallen in love with the love of his life and he ends up losing her, and that's the flip that switches them, and that's why he becomes a serial killer and this and that.
Are you comfortable dyeing your hair red?
No problem.
You'd have to.
No problem. Wig it or whatever. Yeah, no problem.
You're already bought in.
I'm already in, and that would be one of my dream roles for Marvel. That or Vision.
Vision is cool too. Like Paul Bettany is so unbelievable.
His voice is crazy.
Oh my God.
I love his voice. Man.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's really cool.
What about you?
I think like I'm very much also a Marvel guy. I just really felt kind of empty when I watched the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie.
Oh yeah,
that was really painful to watch because it's such a great character.
Yeah,
and it's so interesting too. Like the actual source material, the comics, is such wonderful stories about like.
There's a lot more going on in the comics than that. So.
Overcoming fear and triumph, and how you have to sacrifice the things that make you to kind of help other people, and it's very compelling storytelling. And then they just put Ryan Reynolds in CGI, and they're like, big cloud, you fight, and it was really like, I was like, there's a good story to be told there. There's a compelling story.
They could have done so much more with that. Like I find the origin story for a lot of the superhero movies are the best ones.
Yeah,
Spider-Man 1. Right? That story was crazy. Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Iron Man, the first Thor.
Well, that's also Jeff Bridges was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just love him just being pissed off rich guy is like,
Yeah. So, it was like, now it's like they focus so much on comedy now.
That's true, but also you named two movies that were at the forefront of like when the comic book movies were like super popular, right?
Because they put the story where people can relate to it.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh yeah, it's just comedy.
Sure, because now they've had to do 84 origin stories, right? Yeah. So now that it's been diluted, and again they need to reach like what's different. So now they just plug it into like, hey, we need a joke here and a joke every couple minutes and a joke every couple minutes. So
like the Deadpool Wolverine movie, there's no story to it.
It's just fan service.
Very simplified.
But let me be clear. I love this fan service. This is just like me sitting and gleefully in the cinema eating my popcorn and be like, yay!
Watching on the X screen.
I know that guy and I know that character. Yay! Like that's just, and those movies are fine too. Those are great. Not everything has to be like the Banshees of Inisherin or whatever. Like, there has to be some, like Michael Bay famously said, like, I make popcorn movies for kids. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, definitely do that. But I think you need a balance too. You can't be too like.
No, you need to have something where it's like, well, not heavy, but more just like the story is sort of why I got into acting.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's using that platform to tell a story, whether it's beautiful or horrendous or a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right?
All the best stories are a mix, right?
Yeah, so I prefer digging deep when it comes to doing a character than just doing something so cliche or tacky.
That's why your dream role's a serial killer?
Well, no, for Marvel Universe.
Oh, for Marvel. Okay.
So Carnage.
I love
because it's such a huge character in the comics and the Spider-Man, universe.
Yeah.
That it's just not given enough love.
You gotta feel bad for Spider-Man too. It's a guy with like spider powers who's like taking care of Queens, New York, and they're like, you have to take care of all the universes now. Like it's like such
yeah, it's
poor
crazy.
Guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He can't afford rent. They're like, we need you on the moon. He's like, oh fuck, dude, please, for the love of God, not again, not on the moon.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I think it's fun too that they've been. Did you watch the animated ones, Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah, of course.
And that's another thing too. I don't know if you've ever done any voice acting.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm such a fan of
there's
animation.
classes you can take here in Montreal.
I've done Montreal School of Performing Arts voice acting.
Oh, so you know Joseph and all that? Yeah, they're great. Is that
Paula Davis as well?
Yeah.
So I would love to do that. That seems like such a fun way. And now that like I have a 2-year-old at home, so if I look tired, I apologize. That's why. And all the cartoons and all the stuff like that, it's all this voice acting and it's all this like. The sound engineering, it's all fascinating. It's just a world I would love to like dive into. It's really cool.
Yeah, I would love to do like a Far Cry villain to be like the lead villain and for
that's like a pantheon of
that's what
all-time great characters. Yeah,
I'd want to do like Far Cry, like let's say 7 or 8.
Sure.
But I want to be like the villain.
Yeah.
Cult leader style or whatever.
Yeah.
I could see myself doing that.
Villains are fun characters to play.
Yeah.
Because you have to find the essence of like, they don't think they're bad guys. They think they're right, but like what makes this person
But there's a motive behind them, right? And it's being able to be all CGI'd and all that would be so cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just the motion capture and the suit and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then you just have the camera here and you're delivering your lines and then you get to see yourself in a video game. Like, for me, I'm geeking out hard.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think, even if it's like, if I'm in a video game, I'm buying the game. Like, I'm just going to keep it forever. I don't have the game. I don't have the platform.
You don't even have the game and just sign it for yourself, keep it on the side or whatever,
Put it on a wall. Like, that's just cool.
Then you get, like, posters, Comic-Con, stuff like that, which is really cool, right?
Yeah.
What about you? If you can choose a video game that you can voice cast, like, whether it be like Assassin's Creed or whatever, which one would you want?
I've just been playing the 2 new God of War games. Ragnarok, where he moves from the Greek pantheon onto the Asgardian gods. I love that. So if I would do one of those, I would lose my mind. That is just all-time cool. Yeah. Those games are tremendous.
As Kratos himself?
I don't know about Kratos himself, just because I think Christopher Judge does such an incredible job, and I don't want to tamper with that. That feels blasphemous to be like, I could do a better job. Like that feels like a bridge too far. But I think some of the characters, it would be fun to step into those shoes.
Like someone that he ends up like fighting or whatever.
Sure, like, absolutely. A lesser god that he devours in like 4 minutes. I would be happy to just be like, Kratos, no! And I just get my head torn off. Like nothing would make me happier. Yeah.
Nice.
I have to explain to my parents. So it's a very short scene in this game. It's just me getting eviscerated by the God of War. So I don't know. A guy can dream.
Just another day at the office.
Another day at the office. Yeah.
Okay.
The script says gargle, die, blood, gargle, gargle, die, death. And you're like, I'll nail it. Sure,
yell Kratos and then it's over.
I love that.
So, okay, so that's voiceover.
Yeah.
We talked about stunts.
Yes.
Have you booked any gigs throughout your young career?
No, just like the student films and things like that.
Yeah, but that still counts.
Yeah.
So what about your first experience?
The first experience was great. Here at Trebas, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I booked a student film, which I was really excited about.
What was it?
I played a narc.
Oh,
There's something about me that's like, this is a narc energy. This man looks like he's gonna bust up a drug ring.
Yeah.
So that was super fun. It was just cool to like be on set and kind of get the script and kind of dig into, what the heart of the character is and imagine what my life would have been. So if I'm a narc, that means I've gone through this training as a police officer. I've specialized. I've done this before. I've been successful, so I'm going to put on another case. And then I have to make a choice. Is this my first case? Am I entering this character with a sense
like a
of
rookie or whatever? Yeah.
Is there an anxiety? Am I someone who has botched something in the past and I need to nail this case, or my career is on the line, someone's in jeopardy, or whatever the case is? So I think that coming to a new set and a new character and just diving into what all the pieces are going to be is really, really fascinating.
How'd you take it?
I had the best time.
No, like how did you approach the character? Like
I think I did a lot of work into.
Did you do him like as a rookie, a veteran?
I ended up doing it someone who is kind of like on the last straw with his boss, and someone who's like, if he doesn't land this plane, he's fucked, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that would put him in a lot of trouble immediately, and everything that he would do would feel like it had a weight and feel like it was life and death, even early on. So if you blow something early in the investigation, even you get pulled, even though the characters will still be able to maneuver through the story, but you yourself are in a bunch of trouble. Yeah. So I think I maneuvered it that way, and that's the way I wanted to set it up, because it felt like that was a compelling choice and it was fun. So that's how I decided to play it. Mm-hmm. And then another student film I did here, I was a teacher who had an affair with my student, and she kills me. She kills me super dead. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. That was psycho. I guess, well, you asked about stunts. So she stabbed me a bunch of times. We took like 15, 20 takes. And I didn't know. I was just like leaning on a table and getting thrown on the ground. And I woke up and I was so bruised. Just a benefit being in your 30s, just absolutely bruised from like elbow to kneecap. And I was like, I guess I did my own stunts. Like, I guess, like I was.
That counts.
I guess. Yeah. I didn't train or do anything. I just threw myself on the floor.
I remember my first stunt was there was an explosion happening in a pizza box, and I get sent flying over a couch.
That sounds amazing.
So it was like the explosives were all rigged, and they're like, okay, you need to step here. This is when you're safe. When the explosives go off, it's going to send a shock wave for you to go over the couch. Or if you step too close, you could potentially get injured. Oh. And I'm like, God, I'm acting. I need to hit my marks, not look down, and not suspect or tense up that there is a bomb there.
That's hard, because
because I already knew it was there. So as I'm walking, I'm timing it, and I'm breathing like.
Sure. The mics that can hear your heartbeat are like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah.
And then like the guy's rigging, and he's like watching till I hit a certain mark, then beep.
That's so, and it's also crazy too, because as an actor, you have to go in, you have to know your lines, so you have to have read the script, but you can't act at the beginning of a scene like you know what's going to happen. No. So you can't have the tension in your body of like a bomb is going to go off. Yeah, so you have to be like, I'm eating pizza on my couch. Yeah. Yeah. I'm taking it easy. Like Conor McGregor, all loose armed, and then it blows up and I get sent over the couch. And how was it?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Because you know what I was afraid of is like, what if like I'm gonna like dislocate a shoulder, or if I get overshot, because I'm not a heavy set man, like I'm 162 pounds, like, there's a potential that the shock wave sends me over the couch and I'm gonna hit like my head on something else, or like the corner of the couch too, because it's not just all soft, right? There's little ridges and stuff like that, so there's a lot going on and a lot of overthinking on my end, of course. So it pretty much in
those situations, better to overthink than underthink.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pick one of the two, like you want to overthink, you're not gonna be like, all right, blow me up, let's go. Like that's not the energy.
Like I got shot over the couch, and it was so much force that the couch actually flipped over completely, and then I'm on the ground, and then a guy comes up to me, shoots me, and the blood bag goes off, and I take the bullet, and then eventually I get up, and I have a gun, and I end up shooting him. After I charge out the door and I start screaming.
That's pretty intense. So you survived the explosion and the gunshot, and you killed this guy.
But you know what's crazy? When the explosion actually happened, my ears were ringing. So it was like I was shell shocked. I was like in a World War II movie.
Where they cut out the music and you just have the ringing sound. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. So it wasn't even acting at that point. I'm just like, it's kind of smoky and it's ringing, and I'm like, right? Like, it was crazy, man.
And that was the first time you aired it.
Yeah. for a bigger production. Yeah, it was
That's
crazy, man. So
how do you prepare for that? Like when they say like, hey, you're going to do a stunt, are you like...
They offer, hey, do you want to do it or do you want a stuntman?
Right.
And I'm like, let's do this.
That's wild. Because stuntmen are crazy people. They're just fearless,
I met
insane
one in
people.
particular, he was so... He cared about the way that his hair looked the whole time. I'm like, come on, man, it's not even the definition of a stuntman.
Right.
What are you doing? It's the least of your worries, right? But he was all caring about like how wavy and how good it looked, and I'm like, bad vibes all the way.
Don't trust this stuff. Yeah.
All right, so we're actually at the half-hour mark already, which is crazy. But I want to ask you one last question before we wrap it. If I was a producer and I gave you this imaginary paper right here, and I said, you know what, this is your dream role, what would it be and why?
Is a bad time to tell you I don't know how to write. Anyway, I think for a dream role, I think we have to loop back to the conversation that we talked about before. I think playing the Green Lantern, the way I see it, like the stories I know it's capable of telling, I think that's something I would love to do. Like something like...
So outside of comic book.
Oh no,
so
you're
let's
killing
say
me.
like it could be a fantasy role like Lord of the Rings if you wanted, or it could be, you know, supernatural. So it could be
Supernatural.
like a vampire or something.
I would love
like
to do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Really?
I would love to do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, because I feel like that's such a great story. It's so classic. It's been told already a bunch of times, but I find every time I see this character, it's new, it's interesting, it's compelling.
Yeah.
I've loved it every time I've come across it, and I would love a crack at that. That just seems like such a fun, because you're building two characters parallel to each other. It just feels like you have a lot of opportunity to kind of spread your wings, and that just seems like the best time.
Nice.
Yeah, I would love that.
Great, I love it. So, with that, guys, that is another episode of Rising Stars. I'm your host, Sean Watts. Please like, subscribe, comment, any questions or anything that you guys enjoyed about the interview. We'd love to hear from you. I'll catch you guys on another episode of Rising Stars. Thank you.